Hey, welcome back, everyone. I hope you're well. It is a little bit colder out this week, unfortunately, in the Midwest, but I can't complain too much. This has been one of the more mild winters in my lifetime. But just to dive in here, what's up, everyone? My name's Nick Kleitch. I am the creator of the Life with Nick YouTube channel and the host of the Life with Nick podcast. I'm not going to waste the time of the folks that are here for the playlist. If you are just seeing me for the first time, I'd strongly encourage you to go to my YouTube channel and to my introduction video. There we'll provide all the meat and potatoes of who the hell I am, what the heck this is all about, and why you would want to maybe hang out with me in my office here, my Spartan flag, my books, and all that good stuff. So I'll politely ask you to go do that. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel if you are someone who loves personal growth. Is also just interested in good podcasting and good books. So, for those who know what is going on, let us roll into the next chapter in our book read of the month. This month's book read is Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And we just completed chapter 1 not too long ago, and today we'll obviously be conquering chapter 2. So, getting into the chapter. So, we're going to begin with the thought process kind of right off the bat here to kind of get our gears working a little bit. So, when man embarked on his journey to build an electronic brain, or a machine that operated with its own kind of brain, if you will, there needed to be a construction of a goal-striving mechanism within that. And as they're embarking on the journey to build, they learned that there had to be kind of basic principles in which the design of the electronic brain enabled it to act and perform successfully, right? They're not going to build something that doesn't operate successfully, or said another way, if it fails, they're not going to run a failed product out there. They're looking for something that has basic principles to succeed. And so, having made this discovery and doing so successfully, this led to a very deep underlying question. And that question is, could this be the way that we as human beings actually operate and work? Could it be that our Creator has provided us with a servo mechanism that is more marvelous and wonderful than what the computer or guiding system would have been and would have been built? And so, really, to have it operate according to the same principles as the machine. So, we're going to dive into that. So, your built-in guidance system. Within every living thing that has been created, it has a built-in guidance system within it. Or, said another way, a goal-striving device or mechanism put there by its creator to help achieve its goal. In broad terms, the goal could be as simple as to live, right? That's the broadest term, to live. In simpler forms of life, the goal is to survive. A built-in mechanism in an animal is limited to finding shelter, procreating, solving problem territories, things of this nature. In man, the goal to live means much more than just merely survival. For humans, we have a certain emotional and spiritual need that animals simply do not have. Consequently, for humans to live encompasses much more than physical survival and procreation, though we need those things to also survive. It requires mental, emotional, and spiritual satisfaction as well. Man's built-in guidance system is much more broad in the scope than it is of animals. Our success mechanism can help us get answers to problems, to invent, to write poetry, to run a business, to sell merchandise, to explore new horizons in science, things of this nature. And so now that we know that we have this built-in guidance system, if you will, let's talk a little bit about the success instinct. So, the success instinct for animals, let's say, like a squirrel does not have to be taught how to find and gather food and nuts, nor does it learn how to store them for the winter. This is innate for them. A bird does not need to take lessons on nest building or how to fly south in the winter. In some ways, it's programmed in their biology as they just know. They have the instinct to know how to survive, and for survival for them means success. These animals instinctively know what the needs are to be done to survive. It is built into their genetic makeup. With that notion in mind, though, we often overlook the fact that we as humans also possess this success instinct because we're animals by nature. Our Creator didn't shortchange man in this way. Now, animals can't select their goals, right? Their goals are preset: eat, survive, procreate. And in some ways, man will also work to satisfy these basic animalistic needs. We will eat, survive, and procreate. Yet we are designed or evolved to process another incredible feature outside of animals, and that is humans have creative imagination. Now you're like, Nick, that's obvious. Creative imagination, yeah. But think about it from an evolutionary standpoint of the sophistication of us being able to have that creative imagination. This totally catapulted us in separation to animals in the animal kingdom. Okay? We all are on a level playing field at one point. We're all trying to eat and survive and procreate. Then with this small ingredient and this powerful ingredient of this creative imagination, we burst on the scene to then make ourselves in some ways superior to animals. So, thus, man of all the creatures is more than a creature. We are also creators. Creative imagination leads to the ability for us to create in very simple terms. With our imagination, we can form a variety of goals in our mental, our emotional, our spiritual, and our physical. Humans alone can direct their success mechanism by the use of imagination or imaginative ability. So we often think of creative imagination as applying only to creatives, right? To poets, to writers, and inventors. But imagination is creative in everything that we do, which I think is another important distinction that we need to make. Not only do we have the superiority of humans to our animal counterparts, but we now have these different facets of operating industries to make everything cohesive. We have the farmers, we have the writers, we have the comedics, we have the comedians, we have the medical, we have all these beautiful technology, we have all these beautiful industries that we all create in, and all of them require creative imagination is what we're trying to put forth here. And so to wrap up this piece on the success instinct, I'll hit it with a quote, and that is from the book. The faculty of imagination is the great spring of all human activity and the principal source of human improvement. Because if we're creative, we're curious, and those curiosities leads to experiments. Those experiments lead to improvement in ourselves. And with that, destroying this faculty and the condition of man will become as stationary as that of animals. So we've covered some really, really good pieces here so far. We have our built-in guidance system, as we have related to machines. We have that as well. And then we have this success instinct. We have an instinct to serve our animalistic baseline needs. Furthermore, this powerful success instinct can lead us into all these incredible accomplishments that we can do as human beings while also satisfying all of our other needs. Could you imagine if out in the Sahara, or not the Sahara Desert, the safari, if all these animals had to go and compete with each other to survive, procreate, and eat, and then they thought, man, I need to work on my mental health, or I need to work on my spiritual belief system. That just throws a wrinkle in everything. And that's what makes us both incredibly complex and amazing, but it also is so much more complex in our nature to figure out how we operate successfully. So let's dive into how our success mechanism works. So we're not machines, we've established this. But to bring in cybernetics to this equation, our physical brain and nervous system make up what is called a servomechanism, as referred to in prior chapters, that we use. And it operates very much like a computer and a goal-seeking device. Our brain and nervous system constitutes a goal-striving mechanism that operates, this is important, automatically to achieve a certain goal. Again, baseline goal to procreate, to survive, and to eat, essentially. With that, though, it's much like a self-aiming torpedo or missile seeking out its target and steering it to that target. This guidance system steers us in the right direction of our goals, which is why we need them to begin with, and makes corrective responses to the environment, which can aid us by solving problems to things we're working on, giving us needed answers to things we're working with, and also providing new ideas for breakthroughs. The word cybernetics comes from Greek origins, and it literally means steersman. Again, servomechanisms are so constructed that they automatically steer their way to a goal, target, or answer. And this insight, founded by Dr. Maltz in his work, helps us to make sense of why and how our behavior is the way it is. So, we will then get into the two general types of servomechanisms, but to pause very quickly and to go back on what we've been building throughout this video. And that is, not only do we have these inherent guiding systems to help us achieve our goals, whether it's to build a village, whether it's to build a actual skyscraper, whether it's to write, whether it's to do taxes and accounting. All of that stuff is a way for us to go after and accomplish what we need to accomplish, all the while accomplishing our very simple animalistic needs. So, getting back to the two types. And I will say this is probably the coolest part of the book to me personally at this point, was understanding that not only do we have this in us and acknowledging that, which is like super badass, but furthermore to know that we have two different types of things that are working for us as we need to apply them. So the first group of servomechanism is where the target, goal, or answer is known. And the objective is to simply reach that known objective. So take, for example, in group one, the self-guided missile. The target is a known enemy ship, and the missile needs to achieve to hit that enemy ship. That is its known goal, and it needs to go attack and do that. For us, it could be a specific amount of money we want to make on an annual basis. Whether we made $70,000 last year, we need to make $70,000 again this year. Whether it's climbing a mountain or a physical challenge, we know the destination, we just need to get there. The target is known, and again, the objective is to reach it. So within there, there's just a simple ingredient that is important to note. The machine must have a type of propulsion system that guides it forward in the direction of the target. It can't just be sent out there in the hopes of it hitting its target. It needs some type of way to get there. So the missile has sensory organs, aka a radar system, a sonar system, a heat receptor, any one of those things, which brings information to the target and corrects it when the missile is going off course or if it's in the air. As a note, the missile or machine does not need positive feedback because the positive feedback is simply that the missile hits the object. What is very vital, though, is it needs a lot of negative feedback or course correcting feedback. The missile accomplishes its goal by going forward to the target and furthermore making errors in the path to continually correct those errors on the way to the goal. And then here's another more human, simple example that I would like to use. So let's say we're at work and we drop our pen. The objective is known, and the objective is to pick up the pen from the ground. And then our system moves us in the direction of the pen, or if we incorrectly go to grab the pen and we don't, it will correct us towards that pen. Now, to take a step back, this is super simple, right? We just go and pick it up. When we select the known goal and trigger into action, our automatic system takes over. And the reason for that and the effortless energy for us to pick up a pen is because we have a lot of stored data in our brains that we lean on during this engagement. Okay? So let me give you another perspective on this that may help kind of drive home this point in chapter 2. A baby, for example, would require almost a whole day, let's say, to go and pick up a pen because they haven't developed the success formula that we have in achieving said goal. Once we correct or successfully respond and complete a task like that, our brain remembers how we became successful and store that method for future use. And this would make sense going back to chapter 1, and that is essentially when we do something well, we can then forget or store all the negative and only refer to the positive, right? Because if we were to repeatedly have to relearn how to do everything that we do, that would be so overwhelming to our system that it would just overcomplicate the workload in life, which is another amazing feature of us in our wiring, is that once we learn these things and the how-to, we begin to automatically go out and do. Talk about efficiency at its finest right there. I think that's such a beautiful thing. So working back into this, enough stored data and we can effectively go out into the world and act with confidence as we would know our success formula. Furthermore, if we continue these successfully accomplished goals, it eventually becomes a habit. So that automating process is us doing something we don't know is step 1. Step 2 is when we've done it successfully, we can now revert to the process in which we did complete it successfully. And over time, we're trying to conserve energy. And so it eventually becomes a habit. So here's a very easy one. Brushing our teeth at first was super, super complicated. Now, after we've done it over 10,000 hours, we can almost do it by default because it's a habit of what we do. That's why there's such a wonderful correlation between the Psycho-Cybernetics, the working of our psyche with these machine-like concepts, and habit building. Because if we take that even to the further degree, the goal would then be to create habits out of things that we want in our successful desired outcomes. Now, we've already done this, right? I'm making it sound like this is like what we need to do every day and focus on. We're working on more complicated things as adults, or so I hope. But the more important piece to this pie is that this is the process, right? This is the process of how we become successful in our lives. Is we develop these patterns become habits. These habits then allow us to meet our animalistic desires and then help us fulfill those higher level desires. Hopefully this is all coming together well. That programming within our brain is then again a habit or routine in which we do not need as much mental energy to accomplish this habit. This next piece that I'll share, and then we'll get to the second group of servomechanism, is slightly redundant, but just bear with me because I think it'll help kind of put in perspective of things. So taking all this, so at our jobs, we're coming into a job not knowing what we need to know, yet through the completion of these required tasks, enough failure and success, we gather data, right? So in the new job, you're gathering data all the time, and over that course, you'll do things well and you'll fail at other things, but we're all gathering that data. So now, once we complete our tasks successfully most of the time, we drop the failure patterns and lean on success patterns until become automatic. So failure is important, as it is with the missile, to course correct. But once we've done that enough, we don't need to waste the energy to then figure out, hey, do we succeed or fail at this? No, we've already failed enough, gathered that data, done it successfully enough that we just do successfully. Our brain, again, is trying to conserve energy. So we are trying every day to conserve that by just automatically doing said things. This is where our habits take over. In the same light, our jobs can become automatically successful because of the repetitions we've put in and learning the patterns or systems. So that can be as easy as doing your laundry or as easy as making dinner, right? If you do it enough, you just kind of know what to do. But we can take that, and I wrote the most enlightening fact about this process is that we can apply this to higher, more sophisticated job requirements. And that should be super, super cool, because thinking about the slow process of taking on more and more and more and then becoming successful at it and then automating that success, we can then become more higher earning in our jobs, more complex jobs that we can take on, which will eventually, again, fall back into the process of us doing it automatically. Eventually, even the most difficult of tasks can become habits, leading us to then becoming automatically successful within operating in that space. So, like I said, slightly redundant, but at the same token, I think that is a piece of information that I would encourage you to really sit with and ponder as what have you accomplished, what is where you're going to go, and then how are you constantly feeding this machine this energy and this new discovery or path of what is more complex and more challenging. And as we take on more, we can again eventually automate that whole concept. So this is going to be a little bit more fun. I like the second one a little bit more than the first, but we have to know that when it's known, we can go out and do it and accomplish it. So the second group of servo mechanism is where the target is unknown and the objective is to locate it or discover it, which is kind of neat. Using this pen example, let's go back to it. Now let's say we have to do that, but all the lights are off, right? So instinctually, we would begin to grope around the area to try to find the pen in the dark. Now, this is called scanning, right? We're not knowing where we're going, but we're feeling out our environment. We would then lean on our memory of the room and our memory of how to pick up a pen and apply this into our journey of finding the pen in the dark, okay? So remember, when the target is now unknown, okay, we still can fall back on all of the success mechanisms and habits and patterns to go out and locate and discover. And this is really, really cool because if we couldn't do this, this would be very, very frustrating as well. So the second servo mechanism begins to go to work. A problem is proposed to our internal machine, and our machine scans back through our memories to attempt to develop a plan to pick up the pen. Once we have determined an answer or a plan that is consistent with our problem, which is as simple as picking up the pen in the dark, we now have a structure to go out and find the pen. Okay, we had the first part, which was the stored memory, and then we have the servo mechanism, the second servo mechanism, where we're using that as a successful partnership to go do something that is unknown. Okay? So what this essentially is called in the book is finding the missing pieces, aka locating the pen in the dark. Our servo mechanism goes to work in trying to discover the other missing elements of the structured plan because we want the structured plan. So this might be strange to learn, right? Because as I'm reading it, I'm processing it, and then I'm delivering it to you. So I'm thinking it's a little bit strange, but all of it makes sense in our biological wiring, right? So if we were to have a conversation with our ancestors about building a building, they would initially have a solution because of all of the past experimental things that they did to make it successful. But if we were to challenge them to say, make something new, their servo mechanism would go to work and to develop the building in a unique way. This is the essence of innovation, is that we have these paths and these successes and all of that, and they work for us so we know them and we're comfortable with them. However, when we're now challenged with the unknown factor, this is where we can come up with new and creative ways to do things. And that's what's driven our species collectively, is that we don't just have the one way we do things. We have this constant drive for the new, better, and more efficient way to do things. Therefore, that is that servo mechanism developing some of those things. So let me get back to this really quick here. Of course, it takes time. It does take time, but the insights would eventually come. Another easy example of this is sports. Almost all sports, players have to make quick decisions based on stored data to score or strategize to win. Their decisions are in their stored data of thousands of hours of practice, but they either know the outcome or they don't know how they're going to score. Maybe they have plans, but the in the moment kind of takes over, and that's that second servo mechanism helping them try to achieve said objective. All right. So science can build the computer, but not the operator. So as I've stated throughout the book, and also the author, we're not machines, yet we operate, and our operating system is similar to that of a machine. The essence of this book, and that is the combination of psychology and cybernetics. A computer does not have a forebrain, nor does it have an I, like I as an identified human. It cannot propose problems to itself, yet we as humans can do this, which makes it all the more complicated. So a computer doesn't have an imagination, it doesn't set goals, it does not decide if the goals are worthwhile or not. They have no emotions as well. It only works on new data fed by it by the operator, by the feedback data it secures, the sense organs, and the information is stored. So how does that like apply to us, right? And that is as simple as knowing that we possess these things. And so we need to give our system more data, more feedback to go out and do new and cool shit. So we should, however, take the time to acknowledge that we do have both of these components in our operating system. We are both the computer of stored data and also the creator of the goals. This is the wonderful combination. By knowing all of this, we should strongly consider taking the time to map out both goals that are known to us and also that are unknown to us. And that wonderful combination creates sustainability over time. I will also mention this is why reading is so critical. When we read, we're providing additional strong new information to our brains, and when we interact with the world, our stored information can help us get the results that we currently have, but also it can help inspire new successful methods by which we operate. So you take all of our experience in our stored data and also new experiences we get in the world, combining that with reading, you're now inputting more information in the computer, so then when you go out to do the type 1 and type 2 servo mechanism and use them automatically, it can be a better enhanced way to do what you already do in a more efficient manner. So, knowing me, I take it a step further and I go, this is the deeper levels of thinking, but this should be incredibly encouraging because we as humans have the advantage outside of animals of designing and experience a life we want to live. We get to do that. I say this because as we accomplish new and more sophisticated goals throughout the process of living and growing and reading, I slipped that in there because I love it, we are quite literally pumping successful experiences into our information storage, which leads to higher levels of thinking, creating, money making, goal reaching, and the pursuit of happiness. So the last piece here is a summary of what we've discussed, but I feel like at this point right now, we have really covered some really solid shit and really good information. So if this is the first time you're hearing all of this as we're reading along, definitely go back and like process it and also make sure that like you have notes on it because this is such dense material. I'm even trying to break it down to be simple, but I think even for me, I had to take a couple times to read it and process it and whatnot. So really sit with this and contemplate. Okay, now to the summary of what we've discussed. And this is a little bit of me and a little bit of the author. So every human being is literally engineered by success and for success by our creator. This is known by our success instinct and our built-in guidance system for both known and unknown goals. We must first become aware of our self-image, which we've talked about. And once we've taken the time to sit with, reflect on, and complete our realistic self-image, which includes our belief system, our actions, our perception of who we think we are, we can begin to leverage our built-in system to recreate and redesign the new self-image through visualization and our new list of goals, both unknown and known. We can embark on a new life right now. As reminders, our built-in success mechanism, it must have a target or goal, and if it doesn't, and if you don't provide it, it will find one, and that will likely be at the baseline animal level. Survive and conserve energy. Survive and conserve energy. By taking the goal and giving this new goal to our system, we're now redesigning and reconstructing what we are as humans, which is, again, very, very cool. So the goal or target must be conceived of already existing right now, either in actual or potential form. So what that is meaning is we can do the one or two. We can have a goal, which could be to make $1 million. If we haven't made $1 million, that would be two. We have to locate that and we have to discover how we do that. Or if we've already made $1 million, that's the known goal, right? But we still need to mentally perceive of that, and we still need to construct it as if it already exists. Our success mechanism operates by either steering you to the goal you already knew or did, or discover something that's already in existence. The automatic mechanism operates or must be oriented by the end result goals. Do not get hung up with the how-to on likely the second servo mechanism of discovering, as the mechanism may actually help you create that how-to. So this is getting into like kind of the secondary elements of these things that we've talked about. And so what I mean by that is, as you're going to set your goals, set your known goals, set your unknown goals that you're going to try to go out and reach while also maintaining your stability within your known goals. Try not to think and get held up by, oh, Nick, I don't know how to do that. Perfect. That's the beauty of the process of this built-in guidance system, because it will help us go find the how-to. It will supply the means when you supply the goal. Many people will destroy or disenable their success mechanism by demanding the how-to before the goal is clearly established. After you form the mental image of the goal you seek to create, the how will come to you. All successful operating systems require temporary failure and mistakes, going back to the missile analogy, so we can course correct. Don't fear or get caught up in the mistakes along the way, because that is the negative feedback that it needs to course correct. That is imperative. Finally, and maybe most difficult, and I agree with this, you must learn to trust your creative mechanism to do the work without you trying to jam it and constrain it, okay? Its nature is to operate spontaneously according to the present need. Excellent. So we are rounding out the video of Chapter 2, Psycho-Cybernetics, and there's one other piece here that I have put forth that is more mystical and is more higher level. So if it gets a little out of hand on us, don't worry, just kind of think it through, but I did want to end here as it is kind of a fun prompting. So is there a storehouse of infinite knowledge, ideas, and power? Is there an infinite storehouse? Meaning, is there just us, or is there another place that we can go to get information? Whew, I'm almost out of breath. As we work into the last parts of this chapter, many great thinkers and humans that have come before us believe that man and woman's stored information is not limited to our own memories of past experiences and learned facts. We possess what we have in our own stored information, yet there may be a source of unlimited information in the universe and the energy in the universe. Some people call this God. Some people call this dimensional energy. Some people call this intention or the source. Whatever you want to call this infinite storehouse of wisdom, knowledge, and ideas, it can be tapped into through intention, in prayer, and universal energy with meditation. This is why the second servomechanism is so powerful, because as we develop a relationship with discovering new methods of reaching our known and unknown goals and allowing our creative mechanism to work for us, somehow this mechanism can pull information from this source and help us come up with solutions to our problems. These solutions may not even be known to us right now. But every human being has access to a power greater than himself or herself. Here is more of an example to kind of make sense of what we're talking about here. But I do believe, whether it is God, whether it is the source, whether it is dimensional energy, we can begin to meditate on certain things to pull from this infinite storehouse, in addition to reading and all these other things, to come up with the breakthroughs that we've been looking for. Let's take Thomas Edison for a moment. Everyone knows Thomas Edison, or likely knows him. He's an inventor. And he believed that he got some of his ideas from a source outside of himself. Well, that doesn't make sense, right? How can he come up with ideas that are outside of himself? Once he was complimented for a creative idea, and he disclaimed that credit, saying, "Ideas are in the air." It's kind of cool to ponder. Ideas are in the air. Think of a time you're wrestling with a goal or problem, and let's say you've been praying on this issue for a month's time or meditating on how to get through it. All of a sudden, one morning, you're at coffee with a friend, unrelated to the problem. You're talking, and then all of a sudden, this random kind of side thought comes up and through, and all of a sudden, you just magically come up with a solution. Or you're laying down, and You had a dream, you woke up from the dream, and all of a sudden, bam, you have this new perspective. This is some of the essence of this universal energy or God or what have you to give you more of this storehouse of infinite ideas and wisdom. Now, many creative artists and psychologists who have made a case study of studying creative inspiration, sudden revelation, intuition, note that when searching for new ideas or answers, it is a fact very similar to searching the memory for a name you have forgotten. Your internal scanner scans deeply into our subconscious mind or even has connection to the source to literally create new ideas out of nothingness. In much the same way we set out to find new ideas or answers to problems, we must assume that the answer already exists somewhere and set out to find it. And then there's another quote here that said, once scientists attack a problem which they know they have the answer to, their entire attitude changes. Okay? So again, if this is the first time you're hearing all this and you're kind of thrown off, I get it. I get it. I totally do. However, I would encourage you or suggest to think that what if this does exist, right? Why not believe that it does exist? Because that would play to your advantage to know to tap into this said thing to then be able to give yourself a better advantage out there and coming up with new ideas. Okay? So when we set out to do creative work, whether we're in the field of managing a business, selling, writing a novel, improving human relations, or whatever it is when we begin with a goal in mind, and in the end to achieve a target, it will be recognized when it is achieved. If you really mean business, have an intense desire and begin to think intensely at all angles of the problem, that second piece, that creative mechanism, it goes to work and it scans and it's scanning all through the stored information that we have, and it works to find the answer from ourselves or that stored infinite place. And to round out the video, it selects an idea here, a fact there, a series of former experiences, and it relates them or ties them together into a meaningful whole that will fill out the uncompleted portion of your situation, complete the equation, solve the problem. So that's how it's working, right? It's taking ideas from here. It's taking ideas from reading. It's gathering a little bit of power from the source or power from prayer from God. And it takes all of that, as that second servo mechanism does, and it finds a way to get that structured plan. When the solution is served up to your consciousness, often at an unguarded moment when you're thinking of something else, something clicks and you recognize this is the answer that you've been searching for. So again, take the time to go back, re-listen to this. This was a lot of dense information. However, this is the essence of Psycho-Cybernetics and why it's so damn interesting to learn about this book, learn about how we operate, and how to restructure everything in our lives to get to the better outcomes that we're looking for. You're not in this alone. You have this infinite storehouse of energy from the universe or God, in addition to knowing how our built-in guidance system and success instinct work. Hopefully you guys enjoyed chapter 2. That was a lot. However, let's keep reading and let's get into chapter 3, whether that's over here or over here. I can't quite remember which one of the arrows are pointing that way. Thank you guys for joining me.